And the reason some people think, wow, I don't know, I remember that economy when he first came in being pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good because it was my economy. We had 75 straight months of job growth that I handed over to him. It wasn't something he did. I had spent 8 years cleaning up the mess that the Republicans had left me the last time. So just in case everybody has a hazy memory, he didn't do nothing.
Obama is straight up lying with his revisionist history. His economy sucked. Let me give you guys a breakdown of what it was like to live under Obama as a Generation Xer that experienced his economy firsthand. First off, here's what you should know. Once he took office, the GDP dropped from, this was his last year at least, GDP dropped from 3.7% to 0.7%. Trump took over with a 2% GDP growth rate. He jumped that GDP up to 4% and all the way up to 4.8% right before COVID. In other words, he doubled Obama's economy. Obama talked about this economic growth for, 75 straight months. The growth under the Obama economy for jobs was absolutely anemic. It was absolutely anemic. It was horrible. And by the way, he talks about inheriting this horrible economy from George W. Bush. In part, George W. Bush's last year in office was not that great with the economic recession. Some people call it the Great Recession. I don't believe it was a great recession, but that was the term that was used. But here's what Obama inherited. He actually inherited a stimulus package that he didn't need to spend. He spent that money. By the summer of June of 2009, here's what you need to know. Joe Biden said, listen, we've got a recovery summer. The economy had recovered by the summer of 2009 because of the stimulus package known as TARP that Obama inherited. But just like Biden and Harris did, Obama spent even more money. You guys might recall, those of you that are Generation Xers, during that last few months of Bush's term in office and Biden's new term in office, the Tea Party spun, and they spun because of the horrendous spending. Here's something else you need to know. Since the year of 1960, before Barack Obama got into office, there were 6 recessions. His recovery was the absolute worst of them all. We experienced about 13.29% recovery under Obama. The rest of the people that were in charge, rest of the presidents that were in charge that experienced recessions experienced 25%. Under Reagan, it was over 30%. This guy is straight up lying. Here's another number that you need to know. Food stamp recipients, which is one of the greatest indicators of a horrible economy, jumped under Obama's reign from 33.5 million to 47.6 million. Think of that. Under Obama's reign, food stamp recipients jumped 14 million people. And this fool was trying to lie and say that we experienced a great economy under him. And the only reason, though it was anemic, the only reason that he even got 1.75% or 2% job growth rate was simply because they were fudging the numbers. They were lying about the numbers. Some of you, this gets a little wonky, but there's a U3 number, there's a U6 number that counts full unemployment. They got away, they did away with that. That number really counted unemployment rates because it counted discouraged workers, people. The economy was so bad. In other words, people just said, screw it. I don't even want to look for work anymore. There were part-timers that were looking for work or full-time work but couldn't find full-time work. And then those were the fully unemployed that had just lost their job. They were currently looking for work. So there used to be a 3-part breakdown, and Obama deceptively changed that. The Heritage Foundation at the time wrote about this. Here's what they wrote. Here's what they wrote at the time. I'm going to read you 2 quick paragraphs from this. Weak GDP growth typically translates into tepid private sector job growth. And that's certainly the case with this faltering recovery. This was back in 2015. From its post-recession low point, the jobs number has increased by just 11.3%. In previous recoveries, employment growth averaged 14.3% at this point, producing more than 3 million additional jobs. In the Reagan recovery, for example, that I mentioned, jobs had increased 19.2%. Had the Obama recovery matched that performance, nearly 8.4 million Americans would be working today. In other words, Obama's recovery was absolutely dismal. The guy just straight up lies. He is becoming, in my opinion, Obama is a liability to Kamala Harris, because what people will do, people like me in Generation X, I don't care if you're black, white, Latino, it doesn't matter, will harken back to those days, people that know the truth and will share the truth. This guy is not an asset for Kamala Harris on the campaign. So, you know what? By all means, go ahead and continue speaking. But he is lying about that. Some guy that makes the food stamp, people, the amount on food, if the amount of people that are on food stamps jumps 14 million people under your presidency, that's an indication, Barack Obama, that your economy sucked. All right, let's just be real. I can't stand this guy. This guy, in my opinion, ushered in racial divisiveness like nobody's business. Obamacare. Don't forget about Obamacare. This guy destroyed. We have the best medical system, healthcare system in the world. Now, it wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it was the best in the world. This guy systematically undermined our healthcare system, making it the crappy system that we have today under Obamacare, where before you could go out literally and find your doctor. You could get some of the greatest healthcare, insurance from work. And some of you, with great jobs still today. But people like me that were self-employed, we could find these guys that would sell health insurance, guys or gals that would sell health insurance. We could go out and get PPOs. I remember at the time, I literally was paying about $180 approximately for some of the best healthcare insurance. I was self-employed. I wasn't making a lot of money, but I needed to make sure that I had health insurance. And then Obamacare kicked in. You know what my rate went to? $180 per month to $720. So you know what I had to do? I had to live without health insurance because I could no longer afford it. Now, mind you, I was part of the 10% that Obamacare said that they would help. And it did the exact opposite. This guy is a liar. This guy is a fraud. And if he continues to advocate for Kamala Harris, he continues to campaign for her, all of this old stuff is going to recirculate. This guy is just a complete fraud. Don't forget Cash for Clunkers, where this guy tries to systematically destroy the car industry inside of the United States of America. Now it's so hard to find parts for older cars, but all of this was to try to get us into this EV era where the government could control you, where the government could systematically try to put you into hubs like cities, the major cities, where they could control you easier. They don't want cars. The left doesn't want cars. The communists, they don't want cars simply because they don't want you having freedom. And Obama ushered in so much of this stuff. It is absolutely insane. It is absolutely insane. So this guy is just a straight up liar when it comes to the economy. He never had a great economy. He destroyed the economy his first year in. As a matter of fact, at the time, what a lot of people would call it was managed decline. Some of you that are in Generation X or older that are voted at the time, remember that we started framing Obama's economy as a managed decline. Now, remember, he did exactly what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did. Remember, Trump during COVID issued this stimulus. I don't agree with it. I think it was a bad idea. I think that's the moment that Trump lost the election, in my opinion. However, the economy was starting to recover. We did not need another stimulus. During COVID, Biden and Harris gets in. They issue another COVID stimulus. Biden signs the Inflation Reduction Act, which actually sent inflation skyrocketing. They did the exact same thing, that Barack Obama did. This guy was an absolute disaster. And now he's trying to, because he's the first black president and the media, mainstream media lets him get away with it. He's trying to come out and say his economy was great. His economy sucked. I want to be absolutely clear. His economy sucked. He inherited a stimulus package. He spent even more money. He sent America into inflation. He went after this Obamacare initiative rather than fixing the economy. And again, he had a recovering summary, a recovering economy in the summer of 2009. Just a reminder, GDP dropped in his last year from 3.7% to 0.7%. Trump took over a 2% growth rate, and Trump more than doubled that rate. Fool is a liar. He is a liar. Man, God help me, because I see a lot of influencers or whatever, social media guys, podcasters, so on, et cetera. And sometimes they deliver the news so, happily. And I want to do that. I want to be joyous and happy. I kind of felt like I was that way at one point in time. But I'm so frustrated at what's happening with our country and how these people are systematically, and when I say these people, I mean the Democrat leadership and I mean their donors, are systematically destroying America, where they're making it a country of the have and have nots. They're taking it to this European socialist style country that we don't want, but the donors, the Democrats and their donors are trying to have their say. And it absolutely stinks. But just so you know, this fool destroyed the economy. I think the biggest indicator is he switched the way. The biggest indicators are, remember, he switched the way in which we measure the unemployment rate so that it would look more beneficial to him. And then he also, the food stamp numbers grew under him, 33.5 million to 47.6 million. Boom, boom. You can't claim you have a good economy when you go from 33.5 million people on food stamps to almost 50 million under your presidency, Barack Obama, you freaking liar. All right. Anyway, let's jump to the next clip. Gabe, por favor. This is Obama shaming black men into voting for him. Let's go ahead and roll this clip. I'm going to give you my reaction. This has been big in the news. I think he did this on Thursday evening. I'm a little late to the party. Sorry. We're dealing with hurricane cleanup and so on, etc. But I'm here now. Let's go ahead and roll that video, Gabe. I think that's video clip number 1. Paul, favor.
Communities is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences. He's had to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land.
All right, shut up, fool. Once again, this biracial phony that changes the way that he speaks in front of black people, grew up in front of the brothers. I can't stand that. I can't stand phony people like that. This fool is fake. He absolutely knows it. This was a guy that was raised by rich, white, liberal elites. This was a guy that attended all of these Ivy League and very expensive schools, even in grade school, growing up. This was a guy, this is a guy, that we found out had a lot of homosexual tendencies and all this kind of stuff. This guy is just absolutely fake. He is absolutely fake. He's no different than Kamala Harris, except he sounds better. And here he is trying to shame black men into voting for Kamala Harris. Now, again, black jobs, Tavis Smiley called him out at the time. Black jobs under his administration decreased. decreased. Listen, I don't, this fool can't come to black people and tell us to vote for Kamala Harris simply based upon skin color. Here's the truth, Barack Obama. Here's the truth. Here's what black men want to do. They want to make sure, we want to make sure that we can give our children a life that your mother and that your grandmother gave you. We want to make sure that we can give our children the life that Kamala Harris's parents gave her. Both of you fake phonies that come from a lineage of slave owners trying to condescendingly speak to black men. You should be ashamed of your freaking selves. You're a disgrace. You're disgusting to me. Both of you are. Why don't you tell black people you guys can achieve what we achieve if you put your head down, if you strive hard, if you have some goals, if you work for those goals, if you get around the wrong people and get around the right people, you can be a success in America. That's what you should be telling black men, you punk. I'm sorry. I cannot stand. It's funny because I know there's a lot of black liberals that cannot stand black conservatives. Listen, I love black Democrats, but what I can't stand are fake blacks like this fool that will go around and condescend to Republicans and even black Democrat voters and pretend like they're doing something for them, pretend like they've lived another life. Gabe, do you have that video of how Kamala Harris grew up? Kamala Harris goes around. If you do, just scroll it across the screen. Kamala Harris goes around pretending like she grew up in the hood. These fools didn't grow up like you. And now I don't mind that. Frankly, I don't mind that if you don't sit here and lie to me. I have no animus for somebody that grew up with more money than I did. I'd love to be able to live the lifestyles that they live. That's Kamala Harris's hood in Montreal. You guys see this? That's her hood. These people just lie to you. That's not middle class. That is rich. That's not even upper middle class. Her parents were PhDs, doctorates. They taught at Stanford University, her dad. Her mother was a cancer researcher. That ain't middle class money, people. And they're trying to guilt shame black men. Man, screw you guys. I'm so tired of this. Black people, if you fall for this crap, it's your own fault. This fool grew up rich. Again, no problem with it. Raised by white liberal elites. No problem with it. Attended the best schools. No problem with it. But don't tell me I should vote for Kamala Harris. That's an absolute disaster when all I want to do is get ahead. Do I have the right to get ahead like you, Barack Obama? Should black people want to get ahead like you? Because if black people want to get ahead like Barack Obama, you know what you should do? You shouldn't listen to Barack Obama. You should vote differently. And you have a clear-cut choice. You have somebody in Trump, whether you like him or not. If you're talking about the economy, you have somebody in Trump that doubled the GDP of Barack Obama. Barack Obama's GDP only grew to 2%. Again, we called it a managed decline during his era. Trump soared all the way to 4.8%, more than doubling Barack Obama's job growth numbers. All right. Let's move on. What else do we got here? Let me go through the video clips. Forgive me. I had to sound off on those because it was just absolutely frustrating me. And I'm sorry, Gabe. Now I'm going back to the cut sheet because there's more that I wanted to respond to real quickly here. So let's go down the line. Poor favor. Oh, actually, we'll bring that up in another segment. Before. Okay, I apologize. So it turns out. Let's do this. This is video clip number 6. Because the left wants you to believe, Kamala Harris wants you to believe that she and Joe Biden have done something great. No, the latest job numbers or the inflation report is absolutely abysmal over the past 12 months. Let's go ahead and roll that, por favor, Gabe. Cut number 6.
Then there's today's CPI report, which showed very sticky inflation. Over the past 12 months, the top line CPI is up 2.4%. Now, that's 20% higher than the Fed's 2% target. Then you go under the hood, the so-called core inflation was 3.3% year on year, which is actually 65% above the Fed's 2% target. And while the Kamala Harris campaign blasted J.D. Vance for suggesting a dozen eggs cost $4 now, because they really were only $3.20 back in August, that was still more than double from the Trump years. And meanwhile, John Carney reports that Vance was actually closer to the target than his critics, because inside the CPI report, eggs jumped 10%, are up 39.6% over the past year, and the average price of eggs is now $3.82 right now.
Okay. So the cost of living under the Biden-Harris administration is absolutely abysmal. Middle-class people are suffering. Poorer people are suffering more. But the people that are not impacted by this are the people that Barack Obama and Kamala Harris hang around with. You know, the donor class that are fundamentally trying to transform America. The reason why Obama is campaigning, in my opinion, for Kamala Harris is because he does not want to let go of his legacy. Trump has the ability to absolutely destroy Barack Obama's legacy. Everybody wants to believe that he was a good president. He was one of the worst presidents in United States history, easily in the top 5, maybe top 10, but I suspect easily in the top 5. He was not a great president by any stretch of the imagination, but he got a fawning press simply because he was black. In 2010, this fool lost he lost virtually every race in the United States. The Democrat Party did, because he was such a disaster. By his second term, here's what you need to understand about Barack Obama. By his second term, he had lost approximately 7 million voters. Good thing for him, he ran against Mitt Romney, who refused to put up a fight in the second and third debates of the presidential campaign during that season. Or else I think Mitt Romney would have won. But people were so disenfranchised and disenchanted by Barack Obama by his second term. 7 million fewer voters approximately voted for Barack Obama. That's how whack of a president he is. And everybody knows it, not to mention that he was part of the Russia collusion hoax against Trump. He doesn't want all of that stuff to come out. This guy he's not campaigning for Kamala Harris for America's sake. He's campaigning for Kamala Harris for his own sake, for his own legacy's sake. He's a fake. He's a fraud, just like Kamala Harris. Black people and Americans in general, whites, Latinos, don't fall for it. Do not fall for this man. Do not fall for Kamala Harris simply because of the color of their skin. Barack Obama was a horrible president. If Kamala Harris gets in office, I will make this prediction right now. She will be the worst president in American history. And Joe Biden, I thought, was that one. I think she'll eclipse Joe Biden easily. This lady does not know what she's doing. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast: Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Pull a favor. And until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you. Hey guys, Carl Jackson here for MyPillow. A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. For the first time ever, you can get a standard classic MyPillow for wholesale prices. So it's just for $14.88, but it gets even better. For a limited time, they're offering their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. You can get queen size MyPillows for as low as $18.88. Upgrade to a king for just $1 more. You can get the body pillows for $29.88 and the multi-use MyPillows for just $9.88. Go to MyPillow.com, use the promo code Carl, C-A-R-L, I don't spell it like the communists, or call 800-858-0263 to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever. That is insane. On top of that, receive free shipping on orders that are over $75. They have never been offered this low before. There are limited quantities at this price. So the limit is 10 items per person. Go to MyPillow.com or call 800-858-0263. Don't forget to use the promo code Carl to get the standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Again, the lowest price ever.